Codename Kids Next Door. I really don't think there's any other show like this, one that just captures childhood like no other, in such a unique and over-the-top way. I was watching Colby 2D's retrospective series, great channel, highly recommend, especially if you watch my stuff, and in it they were judging every episode season by season to see how many times the villains were right and wrong. And it got me to realize something. These villains are f***ed up! I'm not kidding. Once you move past the over-the-top hyper reality of this world, it's freaking horrendous how many people devote their lives to making children's lives miserable in every aspect possible. Like for things from the stealing from them, to incarceration, slavery, and freaking attempted murder. It's not even just the K&D, but all kids. I haven't seen a property that has this much adult carnage to children since Little Nightmares. It's like if this image was a show. These kids aren't in this for fun. These kids are fighting for their lives. How do they make it to adulthood? Now, this show is similar to Fairly Odd Parents, where it's an exaggeration of childhood troubles that many kids go through. But in this show, it's a lot more, especially in terms of being powerless to adults' whims. I get it. They're kids who hate adulthood. I'm an adult who hates adulthood. We're on the same side. So it makes it a lot more understandable in concept so many of the antagonists we have. And it's kind of funny to compare them to each other, like some are, okay, you're basically harmless and kind of stupid, to, oh my god, you need to be in prison for life, you freak. And you know what? They deserve another ranking. We're gonna go through the Candy Rogues Gallery and rank them in terms of how evil, sadistic, and messed up they are. So, let's go find out how many adults in this show violate the Geneva Convention and rank them. Now, I do want to say this show is very villain of the week, so like every episode virtually has a new one. I'm gonna focus on the more iconic reoccurring villains, or at least the ones I feel like I can talk about, so there's gonna be quite a few left out. Like, how am I gonna put in evil mustaches or this guy, whoever? Also, only the TV show is considered, so any comic continuations are ignored. Anyway, the ranking is in ascending order, starting from the least evil to most. I'm also incorporating intent into it, so it's not all just villainy actions. So the tiers are gonna be unique and explained as we go along. Starting off with Tier F, or as it's known here, Frivolous Failures. These are the villains who try to be evil but just cannot accomplish anything, basically just being complete jokes and non-threats. Because they're so inefficient, they're at the bottom even despite their intentions. Starting to absolutely no one's surprise, the Toilinator. Yeah, pretty much the icon of worthless villains, to the point where even the other villains hate him and think he's a joke. He's a toilet-themed villain, but to his credit, he did foreshadow children's obsession with toilets in the near future. He was actually just a one-off joke in an early episode, but they kept reusing him after, and thank god, because he's actually pretty funny. Also, fun fact, in the comics, even though I said they're not considered here, he was revealed to be Number 4's long-lost uncle, and got his power from a toilet god, giving him his villain persona to get revenge on all the children vandalizing bathrooms. That's pretty hilarious. But yeah, the joke is that he has basically nothing going for him at all and is a pure joke. I mean, one episode he did actually become a legitimate badass, but he accidentally defeated his fellow villains, mistaking them for the K&D, so yeah, he really is that dumb.
You're in my bowl now, jerk!
Get away! What are you? Somebody help me!
And also he did basically go Ultra Instinct and flush the Grand Canyon full of cereal, but it was a trap for the K&D, so he managed to save them all. And technically it was the first senior citizen zombie in Operation Zero, but that's more a feat for Grandfather than him. But yeah, for being completely inept in every single way, he's the lowest one. Next are the interesting twins from Beyond the Mountains. A lesser known pair of villainous kids known for their espionage and disguises. The main problem with them is that, well, they really suck and constantly just get beat up for their efforts. They haven't achieved a single victory, and mostly are just there for slapstick situations.
I am a failure.
So yeah, for basically being useless, they get on this tier. Next tier is Empathetically Evil. This is for villains who really have good motivations for the most part, and the villainy comes from their extremism or misguidedness, and could be heroes in a different context. Or villains who arguably aren't even villains. Starting with Professor Triple Extra Large. I can't even say this guy's a villain. I mean, yeah, he looks like it and he constantly mutates himself for some apparent reason, but he just wants to make the perfect snow cone. That's awesome, that's chill, it doesn't do anything actually villainous. The first encounter was literally just a misunderstanding. I mean, yeah, sure, later on he did kidnap number 1, but he just wanted him to taste test his perfect snow cones and he was totally into it and would have done it willingly. So like, no, in the show he didn't actually do anything wrong. I don't even think he should be counted as one of the villains. He was actually just a reused character in Warburton's first pilot, Kenny and the Chimp. Which, honestly, I get why it was never picked up. Even when watching, I couldn't see it as a series. Like, what's the premise here? What would they do every episode? This was kind of a mess. Now, the K&D one was perfect. Like, you get exactly what the show was like, and it delivered, and it literally won in a contest. Why couldn't it be like that? I mean, at least it was salvaged from that, but still not even evil. Professor Triple Extra Large, cool guy, but he's at the bottom here. The Crazy Cat Lady. Weird archetype to use for this show. But this is kind of another case of I can't even really say she's the villain. She's just an old lady, potentially a mutant or something, who loves and obsesses over her thousands of cats and have to make a giant amalgamation monster somehow. Also, can I just say I love how these cats are designed? I mean, look at them, they're so cute, I want one. But yeah, she really has no reason to do what she does. She only first fought the K&D because she thought they were trying to take one of her cats. And I guess literally spite is the only reason why she's even anti-K&D after. It's weird. So yeah, she's down here and really just a villain by technicality. Oh yeah, I guess Laura counts. She's basically just a sweet little girl who literally hulks out when upset, becoming the big bad adolescent. But even though her alter ego is huge, angry, and destructive, it's not like she wants to do it. She's really just a girl who can't control her emotions and end up causing destruction because of it. She doesn't even actively do anything wrong, as in her first appearance in the first Cake episode, the delightful children invite her just to essentially be a bodyguard so the Candy can't ruin the party. Also, she was fully right here to Hulk out after this.
I got invited to a birthday party.
Beat it, Squirt.
Like, what the f, dude? I know you're the tough guy, but that's no excuse to be a d. You deserve that beating right back. I guess she did effectively strong-arm them to buy her Girl Scout cookies, but I guess she can't control her emotions. So, yeah, not really a villain, but a girl with an unfortunate condition. Then Nightbrace, the evil dentist. Now, I actually think he's in the right for nearly every appearance. I mean, I was born with perfect teeth. So I never had to deal with braces or that much trouble with dentists, so maybe I can't relate to kids fearing them. Like, okay, he's an extremist and got kicked out of dentistry for trying to put braces on babies. That's pretty harsh, as well as his dentistry max, but all he wants is for kids to have good teeth. And look at these kids. They don't take care of their teeth and proudly pride themselves on it. It's disgusting. He just wants to help you people for free. I mean, do you know how much treating a cavity costs and how bad it is? Like, this guy is doing you a favor. You don't want cavity paint or something? I mean, he also tried to destroy some cereal, but who cares? He also hosted parts of the Villain's Choice Awards. I hope SpongeBob doesn't win again. I don't care. He's a good guy, and you also take care of your teeth more, so I wouldn't say he's evil. Also, I feel bad for this poor other dentist. He saved them, not for the free checkup, and y'all deny him. Y'all are awful. Then, Grandma Stuff'em. She's kind of a weird archetype, being an exaggeration of grandmas who love to overfeed their grandkids, saying they're too skinny. Now just taken to the extreme, summoning an army of sapient gross food creatures to force feed themselves to kids, cause this is the reality they live in. Now, in her first appearance, she actually legitimately believed she was doing good, mostly because the delightful children tricked them to think the Candy are starving.
Food, there won't be any for those poor starving kids next door.
Starving?
They're famished.
So, really they're only a part of the Rose Gallery because they were tricked to. She also was in an episode that was literally just a massive rock opera action scene for the entire episode. Yeah, it's bonkers, but holy hell was it awesome.
Into the school with my food to conquer the young and rude. I'm Grandmother Stuff'em. Grandmother Stuff'em.
Also, if she was like a better cook and actually made good meals, I'm sure the kids would be down for it. Also love this joke in Operation Zero.
I'd like to thank Grandma Stuff'em for not providing the catering at this supervillains convention.
Like, this lady has the capacity to end world hunger if she wanted. If she cooked better food and actually went after kids in need to feed them, she would be a hero. I mean, I guess there's the issue of childhood obesity, but like, this is a universe with asparagus sea monsters and sapient underwear assassins that's kinda too real for this world. So I just consider them more misguided than anything.
You tomorrow, childrens! We're having Scream of Spinach!
Oh, get a new cookbook, lady.
And let's finish this off with maybe a controversial place, Count Spankulot. Probably my favorite villain of the show, who shares the same voice as Timmy's dad.
Now, children, prepare to feel the wrath of Count Spankulot!
Now, I actually think Spankulot really just got screwed over to be a villain. Spankulot stands out from the other villains as he actually has a moral code and only spanks bad and misbehaving children. Now, spanking might be controversial, but at least he doesn't go out of his way to harm kids unless they actually deserve it. It's even implied that he's hired by the parents of the kids in the beginning of its introductory episode. And when he accidentally got sent to the wrong house, he's legitimately dismayed that he spanked an innocent kid and accepted his punishment so he's not above his own rules. And this gave him a huge introspection, and then swore to never harm kids again and help them, practically saving the candy from Mr. Wink and Fib. He only joined up with the candy because he wanted to use them to help other kids. But they found him so annoying that instead of trying to just talk to him, they framed him for another crime, spanking the judge and wrongfully sentencing him just to get rid of him. And then they blurted out how they intentionally sabotaged him and that they were the ones who sent them false information to spank the first kid. Like, God, what the hell? Like, first of all, the fact that the KND literally threw another kid under the bus just for their plans. So I guess the whole help kids in need thing really just can't be broken if it fits them. They never clarify if he was an operative either, so Spankulot has better moral integrity than they did. And also the fact that they just puppeted this man multiple times even when he did what they wanted and gave up harming children just to ruin him again because he annoyed them, which again only happened because they sabotaged him.
At luck, Count. And you are such a great member of the team.
Really? Oh, thank you, number one. That means a lot.
They are the real villains of this episode, and I am not taking any other sides. They deserve what they got at the end. And so this just cemented his villainy and detestment for the candy because they ruined his life and it's deserved. Any evil deeds he did after are invalidated because these brats intentionally sabotaged his redemption. This guy literally just spanked with a moral code and then got sabotaged and tried to turn over a new leaf just to get sabotaged again. So no, he's justified in what he did and probably deserved better. Okay, so that finishes the empathetically evil tier. Next, let's go to devious douchebags. Now, these are for the villains that do commit evil, but they're most so just nuisances or annoying or commit misdemeanors. But either way, they're jerks. Starting with the Common Cold. I feel he's one of the more memorable villains despite only having one main appearance. I guess his role in the video game helped. But yeah, this guy, I don't get his deal. He got sick and now he wants everyone to be sick out of spite, I guess. But I mean, it's not too bad. Like, yeah, he got a cold, that sucks, but he'll be gone in a week, and hell, you might get off from school for a few days. Honestly, the worst part of this guy is he literally fires his snot mucus as ammunition to infect people. That's freaking gross. But yeah, not really too devious, just a douchebag. Next is King Sandy. One of the few active kid antagonists in the series, this kid must like really love LARPing. The most of his powers come from his knights, and holy dude got freaking Shovel Knight under him. But his knights are actually just his older cousins, and I gotta say, this kid must have the best cousins ever for constantly enabling his fantasies and being his servants. I'm pretty sure most other cousins would have just beaten him up for half this stuff. But these guys start by destroying rival sandcastles and then abducting number 3 as their princess, though she's surprisingly into it, at least at first. He also wants to marry her, which she objects because he's serious about it. Granted, this marriage isn't legally binding at all unless his lifeguard is officially licensed. Next appearance, he forced her to marry him or he'll destroy rainbow monkeys, which is pretty mean. But then he stops going after number 3 and falls in love with her little sister, Mushi, who I don't think deserves a spot on this list. Really, his cousins just need to stop enabling this kid because he doesn't know when to quit. Robin Food. So like his namesake, this douchebag steals lunch from kids and gives it to the old. Which, yeah, pretty jerkish stealing lunch from children. Poor kid's gotta be hungry for the rest of the day. Also, I can't be the only one who hears it.
Baldy, babe, hand over the lunch, okay? Dig?
Now, you might argue he has the moral high ground, but he doesn't, as later it's shown that they're just cafeteria workers in the old folks' home that are too lazy to cook for the seniors and just steal food from others. And even worse, that the seniors can't stand the food since they literally can't even eat it with their age. Which is honestly hilarious. Also that the seniors have mechs too and are technically a neutral faction in this age war. So yeah, stealing from children because they're too lazy to cook actual food for seniors, you get here. Next, we'll move on to the next tier, Conniving Criminals. These cross the line to fully criminal acts that could be punishable, but not enough to call them entirely evil. Starting with Sticky Beard. Now, Sticky Bear can go in the same category as Robin Food, but doesn't actually hide his food theft with the notion of morality, he just steals from kids. Specifically, their candy. The real thing that pushes them here is how many times they do it and how much. They literally steal candy from kids on Halloween, come on. Not to mention their entire ship full of stolen candy they hoard for themselves. It's insane how much they plunder. They also show that there are multiple crews of candy pirates out there sailing the suburbs, so I guess this is a fact of life. I also gotta mention their giant ship they literally sail on land that is constantly shown to bulldoze and demolish entire neighborhoods, and that would get a higher rank if it was ever actually acknowledged. I will say though, he does have an interesting dynamic with number 5, both as candy lovers and sometimes even save and assist them. It's an interesting dynamic.
He might be out to destroy ye kids next door, but I'll be dipped in chocolate before I let a blasted vegetable do anyone in.
But for stealing candy from children this many times and that he actively attacks the candy, he's in this tier. Next is the Spinach Inquisition. Bet you didn't expect that. So these guys are conquistadors, amazing pun, from a weird spinach nation that just so happens to revolve around spinach, and invade the school to try and force kids to eat spinach to spread their gospel. And when they don't, they just straight up abduct and torture them. Except for number 2, who joins in since he likes the spinach food, but is appalled to see him torturing his friends. But they don't just do that, they also randomly have a really catchy musical number.
The Spinach Inquisition is here and it's a hoot.
Now, of course, these guys are parodying the Monty Python Spanish Inquisition, they even reference it.
Nobody ever expects the Spinach Inquisition.
But this is more of a homage to a similar Spanish Inquisition musical number from Mel Brooks' History of the World.
The Inquisition, what a show. The Inquisition, here we go.
The Spinach Inquisition, come on and open wide.
Kinda makes me wonder if like a kid just had a small bowl, would they leave them alone or keep torturing them? But they're also number 3 and 4 shippers.
Well, if he won't try it, maybe his girlfriend will.
Eventually though, it's revealed that they don't even like spinach and just want to make someone else eat it, so I question the base culture of this country. Anyway, they make a treaty where instead they'll go invade Canada.
Well, I'm off to destroy Canada. They've had it too good for too long.
So for kidnapping and torturing children, even if it was kind of light, they get here. Come on, everyone knows that if you want kids to eat spinach, just show them Popeye. Mighty Mom and Dino Dad. Oh, wait, those aren't the right ones. Mega Mom and Destructo Dad. I keep mixing them up. Honestly, they seem like just super one-offs since their motives are so specific. They're revealed to be Chad's parents in their first and main appearance. Now, I would put Chad on this list since he's one of the most reoccurring and iconic villains, being a K&D turncoat, and one of the main operatives of the teenager faction. But the penultimate episode, Operation Treaty, revealed that he was a double agent and was one of the select groups of teenagers who remained K&D operatives to spy on their enemies. So it kind of got retconned that everything he did was planned for the K&D and to pose as a villain when he's not. So yeah, you can't really be put on the villains list anyway. So they end up taking out the entire K&D organization, which is a feat that has only been done with Grandfather, the biggest villain of the series. That's kind of bonkers to think about and maybe series breaking. They did this just so that their son would be the best K&D operative in the world by default, really, and only quit when Chad was absolutely appalled and quit all his extracurriculars. So yeah, they're one of those overachieving parents. Also, they wear masks that are literally just their faces for some reason. Now, that's really their only known goal, but they still hang out with the adult villains for some reason. Are they there honorarily, or do they actually have a vendetta? I doubt it, since they loved their kid was a top operative. They confuse me before the villainous act, even if it was clearly reversed and they never did much after, they get here. Okay, this one is weird because I'm putting it here because it doesn't fit D or B tier, so it's averaging out. Mrs. Thompson and by a lesser extent, Valerie. They're kind of in the same league. Number 5 in their school is plagued by a giant dog eating homework. And they blame their fellow schoolmate Valerie for owning a vicious dog, only to find out that she's actually a monstrous were-dog that eats homework and then tries to eat her. Though, after they're still starting to go to school together, that must be really damn awkward. They poison them with number 4's homework hilariously because it's that bad. But Mrs. Thompson apprehends them, but reveals they're both were-dogs. Now, this wouldn't be acknowledged until 3 seasons later, which showed Mrs. Thompson was the queen were-dog, and has turned the entire honor roll to them, and even turned number 5 into one as well, as they go on the attack as they weaponize number 4's homework against them, as if it's Wolfsbane. But then it's shown she actually got that way from a cursed amulet her ex-boyfriend gave her that reverses the entire curse for everyone. Now, my biggest question in all of this is, like, are were-dogs a thing in this world? I wonder how many are out there. Could there be a were-dog candy operative? That sounds cool. I mean, then again, this world just kind of makes stuff up as they go along. But yeah, it's hard to place them since they are vicious, bloodthirsty werewolves, but it's implied they were forced to be this way by the curse, so I guess I just gotta even it out. So that's about it for C tier. Yeah, not a lot. So literally every other villain in this show is a complete monster. Next rank is the broadly bad tier. These guys are just plain evil, no question about it, doing despicable and heinous acts that are completely undeniable, from stuff to kidnapping, slavery, and just attempted murder. Undeniably messed up dudes. Starting with Mr. Wink and Fib, one of the most iconic pair of villains in the show, even technically being the first villains in the pilot. Though they surprisingly don't have many main antagonist roles. They're also fused with a walrus and a buffalo for some unknown reason. Combined with the cat lady, is there some X-Men stuff going on? The two almost entirely rely on their mechs, usually in the form of chairs they used to cause havoc. And the thing that really puts them up here is they're not afraid to actively kill the K&D, with them nearly succeeding quite a few times. But they don't really do much aside from some cameos and side appearances, so I can't put them much higher. Interesting thing though, they were once part of a K&D-like organization before becoming evil adults themselves, which does tie a lot into the interesting themes of the show of growing up and losing what made you you. They're also based on the Bond villains Mr. Wint and Mr. Kid. Also, I'm just gonna say what we're all thinking. They are totally into each other. I mean, there's no denying it. There's no heterosexual explanation for this. They say they're just roommates, but come on, there's gotta be more. I mean, Mr. Fib apparently was into Lasso-Lass before she rejected him after becoming bald at age 14. Once he got a toupee and she was into him, he ran away from her, so I think that was as a cover. But yeah, for their attempted murder of the K&D, they get up here. The Cheese Shogun. This is one of the most bonkers villains out there. Like, he's not even based on something kids don't like. He's just a villain based around cheese. He has an entire army of cheese ninjas, and not only just steals cheese, but actually kidnap people and force them to work at the cheese mines, because those exist apparently. I guess we got chicken nuggets instead of gold nuggets. There's probably every food ever in this planet's crust. But still, kidnapping random civilians and putting them into slave labor, yeah, that's pretty awful for something you can literally just have made in a farm. I don't know what this guy's deal is, but he gets up here. Speaking of child slavery, Principal Smelling and Sarbaton. Apparently, the school finds salad oil under the playground. Again, you can find any food in this world if you dig hard enough. And the two principals want it really badly, so they change recess to force children to work and mine for the salad oil as slave labor for all grade levels. Something about this feels even worse than the Cheese Shogun. Like, this guy enslaves his own students for his own gain. Something about a school official abusing their own children is appalling. Also, I do not trust their German accents and designs. It's kind of making me think of very bad connotations. They also openly hate children, which, to be fair, I'm pretty sure a lot of the teachers I have had did so too, so it's not that unbelievable. But yeah, enslaving your students is no good. But they're not the only evil school faculty members, as there's President Jimmy. As I said last video, I don't trust anyone named Jimmy, and this is another case. Now, in his introduction, he's treated as the actual president, and we see him make multiple promises in his campaign to improve the lives of his people. But once in office, he completely goes back on all of them and just makes life miserable for everyone. So yeah, very accurate.
I am the 4th grade president for life. You shall address me as Master President!
But his crimes range from extending the school days, getting rid of lunch, and even eventually canceling the snow day, and abducting all the students back to school, and weirdly a Star Wars parody for some reason. But the real kicker is that he became evil to become a powerful person to impress Lizzie, number 1's girlfriend who he loves. Then decides to flat out brainwash her with a boyfriend helmet. This thing is maybe the most despicable device in the show. A purchasable item that literally mind controls a person to permanently fall in love with someone else, which is the most f***ed up thing I can think of, depriving people of consent in a relationship. Like, whoever made this is an S-tier villain.
You want a boyfriend?
No!
But yeah, for his crimes against the other students and brainwashing a woman into loving him, he gets arrested and sent to prison, which is the one part of this that is unrealistic. Though, come to think of it, the K&D having their own Arctic prison base is messed up. Like, these kids can just straight up detain people they deem dangerous to their organization and imprison them indefinitely, even other children. I doubt they have any trial or parole. They literally have their own Guantanamo Bay, and no one has a problem with this. Like, again with Jimmy, he's detained presumably for the rest of his life. What are his parents gonna think? This is really messed up if you think about it. Again, this world is a nightmare. Next, Mr. White. Now, Mr. White, or Walter White, is an iconic criminal. At first being crystal meth to provide for his family, before becoming a ruthless criminal drug lord, reverting to theft, assault, kidnapping, and even murder to achieve his goals, depriving what little humanity he had left. Now, I'm shocked that he's this low on the ranking, and that he's even in Kids Next Door at all, but this is what we... What? This is the wrong Mr. White? Well, come on, the least you can do is give me a first name to work with. He's the guy who comes to mind with the name Mr. White.
My name is Mr. Brown, this is Mr. Pink, Mr. Rainbow, and Mr. White.
Oh, Mr. White is actually a sentient pair of underwear, because this is one f***ed-up world to live in. He's an assassin sent by the delightful children, who seeks revenge on kids who don't take care of their underwear, and tries to kill number one by, I guess, suffocating him. Jesus Christ. Now I'm gonna be paranoid tonight that my underwear is gonna kill me in my sleep. He tries to get out, but surprise, saying your underwear is trying to kill you is an unbelievable story. But he sees number one neatly fold his underwear and even sacrifices himself to save him, though he is nursed back to health and decides to retire from his gangster ways. Now, he did redeem himself at the end, but he is also implied to have killed a lot of other kids to be a professional assassin, and I don't like that idea, so he gets this high. Next, Mr. B. God, no, I don't want to deal with the boss, baby, don't make me. This guy is really stupid. He's a network exec that is an adult in a baby's body and somehow has a cigar that changes people's age that is literally never explained at all. And he plans to use it on the KND satellite network to turn everyone else into a baby. This is like the dumbest villain plan ever. Like, really, dude? This is what you plan to do? What's he gonna do after? Doesn't matter anyway, as he's hit by it, turning him into a baby for real, effectively killing him. That's messed up. The only actual important thing is that delightful children get their hands on the cigar and use it to turn number one to an adult in the season 1 finale, which I really like. But yeah, this guy's a complete idiot, but he was dangerously close to completing his plan, so B rank for Mr. B. Next, not Mr. B, but Mr. Boss. Yeah, kind of confusing. Now, honestly, I kind of think this guy is overrated. The guy looks like Herbert the polar bear if he was a human. He's treated as like one of the big bads of the show, one of the leaders of the villains, but he really doesn't do much. He mostly just leads group gatherings and rarely has any solo episodes. I mean, is stealing macaroni art for a dinner really that villainous? You can just buy some. He has only one real, genuinely evil action in his first appearance, where he abducts all his employees' daughters and plans to send them to Pluto, which would no doubt kill them, just in hopes that without their daughters, the workers will work more. That's incredibly stupid. But what did I expect for a guy who sticks his cigars up his nose instead of smoking them? Oh yeah, he's also the father of... what's her name? Crap. That girl from Brave, yeah, her. So I guess birthing her could be considered a crime as well? Though somehow they have no idea of the other's involvement on the opposite side. Which, come on, how the hell is that possible? You were in the Arctic prison. He says he loves his own kids, but hate everyone else's. I really feel this guy shouldn't get the title as number one's arch enemy. The dude is barely a threat and only gets as far for basically trying to kill all his workers' children. Also had no right to survive this. So those were the B tiers. Pretty bad. Well, now we're gonna get to the next tier. Absolute abominations. The most evil, despicable villains on the show, with absolutely no moral qualms and are just completely appalling, going to mass murder or arguably even worse on multiple occasions that make you glad they're not real. Starting with Heinrich. I always thought his name was Heimlich, kind of, I think that's more fitting. But then again, they can't give him a nickname that means butt.
Oh, hello, Heine.
I thought about putting him in the B tier, but the more I think, no, he gets here. Interesting how he was actually one of number 5's closest friends before turning on her and becoming a candy thief, with the first episode being kind of a parody of the Lost Ark. So, like, is he supposed to be that one Nazi guy? That's messed up. But it really gets messed up in the second episode, which is a Temple of Doom parody. Pay attention, like half of this show is a parody of something else, where he abducts a first grade class's pet rabbit to a chocolate volcano to dip it in boiling chocolate to eat real chocolate bunnies. Okay, enjoy chocolate covered charred flesh and bone marrow. How is this a good plan? This just sounds like you want an excuse to kill some animals. Even beyond it, he dipped some little girl's precious stuffed animal to eat pieces of. Wow, what a dick. And even further beyond, when number 2 and 5 almost fell in, he was excited on how they would taste, who is also an opportunistic cannibal. But this also leads into his next appearance, falling in and mutating into a chocolate monster with a chocolate Midas touch, turning what he touches into edible chocolate and abuse it to hell and back, causing carnage before getting revenge, and nearly single-handedly defeating all of Sector V and nearly getting Abby if she didn't narrowly escape to melt him in the sun. Luckily he was reverted, but that alone gets him this high. Dude legit wanted some blood. Then ending in a really confusing episode where he makes caramels out of people's best qualities. I don't know, I'm just gonna say he eats their souls. I was gonna do it to like half the continent, but then it ends randomly revealing he was a girl this whole time. Yeah, there was absolutely no indication of this before. Where the hell did this come from? Now, it's not all bad. He was revealed to be Sticky Beard's cabin boy, which actually fits perfectly. He had to save him for being sacrificed in a Pirates of the Caribbean parody. Again, there's so many. But yeah, for all his crimes and having absolutely no regard for life and others, he gets here. Next, Mr. Fizz. I actually didn't think he'd get this high, but coming to think of it, yeah, he deserves it. So this episode was a parody of Prohibition, but as a kid I had no idea what that was. As a kid I thought they were actually talking the truth, that kids aren't allowed to drink soda until they're 13, no joke. Like, it made me worried eating out, like, crap, am I gonna get in trouble for drinking this? Please tell me I'm not the only one. So yeah, he's the one enforcing the soda law, and he's depicted as a struggling alcoholic dealing with anxiety, which is really too real for this show.
It's a bit early for soda, but I need something to steady the nerves.
But his plan is revealed that he hates kids so much, he's literally bottling them up, as in just stuffing them into soda bottles and then packing them away. Like, what the hell is this?
Because, alright, come on, just shut up so I can explain my plan.
Okay, please. I want to hear, how in the world can you possibly justify this? So like, as far as we know, he's literally just keeping them in bottles until they grow up. So he's literally cramming children into compact tight bottles. Like, God, they must be in agonizing pain, unable to move at all. They're probably suffocating in there. And are they just supposed to grow up in these bottles for like 8 years until adulthood, growing up in a tiny enclosed space and able to move away from their families? This is absolutely diabolical. This alone gets him this high. His second main villain appearance does have him stopping soda contraband delivery, but that's a lot more reasonable with his job to regulate soda consumption aside from the giant tanks and presumably attempted murder. But still, that first plan, what the hell is wrong with you, dude? Next is Miss Goodwall, a more obscure villain from the first season who might be even more messed up. She runs a children's zoo. Literally, it's a zoo of kidnapped and captured children she puts on display. Like, that alone would be insanely messed up, but it gets even worse as he plans to feed the KND to the bully. And yeah, it's pretty over the top, but they do treat it as a legitimate threat, and it's implied he has eaten other children captured. Like, what the actual hell? How are people in this world okay with this? This is what I mean, that the KND world is a complete nightmare to live in. Imagine being at your house, getting tranked suddenly, getting abducted, put in a cage as an exhibit, and then being fed to a cannibal. Like, I'm not kidding, this is a nightmare dystopia. Does anyone's parents even care? The only reason she's not getting higher is that at least it implies she only feeds brats to the bully like the KND. But lady, zoos don't feed the lions the zebras. What is wrong with you? For such a one-off villain, she should have had the most demented plan. Though speaking of demented plans, I'm sure people are waiting for this one. Nurse Claiborne. Operation Pink Guy is one of the most infamous episodes of the show for its incredibly dark and absolutely disgusting twist, where there's a pink eye epidemic in the school made by an unknown saboteur, only to find it was caused by the nurse literally scraping off the infected eye crust to use in her apple crumble pastry she gives to the school. Oh my god! How do you come up with this? No, I'm not saying in the cartoon. I'm talking, how do you conceive and write this plot? How do you do this? But really, out of all things to make your pastries, you make it out of infected eye crust. How the hell did you think to use it and why?
Harry, not only is that a major violation of health, that's a violation of human decency.
Seriously, this episode is just too much. I'm seriously about to throw up. This is really like up there with the grossest episode of the show. How the hell did this air?
That is seriously gross, lady!
Also, she really could have hid her crimes better, at least lock the damn door. Though she does make a getaway and is seen in her next and final appearance in Operation Home, where it's shown number 3's first rainbow monkey has physically aged, making me very concerned that all these plushies are real. I swear the living status of rainbow monkeys is all over the place, and has to send them to an old folks home for rainbow monkeys, only to find out it's a front for her operation to grind up the old rainbow monkeys that are dropped off, which is horrific to the implied living state, and use them in rainbow munchie cereal. What is your deal, lady? Why are you constantly making food out of what's clearly not meant to be food? Like what's next? You're gonna start selling sandwiches made out of plywood, tile grout, and squirrel shit? Though this either means fabric and stuffing tastes delicious in this world, or these monkeys are made out of pure sugar. Apparently, she's forced to do this after she was fired for her crimes and couldn't get a job as a nurse or chef anywhere, and gee, I wonder why. Though, I do feel Goop would probably hire her. Also, she has absolutely no qualms in grinding up children to use in her cereal, so I guess she's another opportunistic cannibal. Actually, this all technically is cannibalism.
Did you not want me to press this?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What else can I say? This goes beyond evil. This is pure mental. Next, the leader of the teenager faction, Kree. Kree probably has the most interesting relations out of the Sector V families as the older sister of number 5, and even more that they were one of the top K&D operatives and taught Abby what she knew, which does lead to why it's so understandable that K&D is so harsh on decommissioning with how Kree ended out, especially since she escaped her own. First appearing in the episode that brought us battle-ready armor, and I like to believe her true descent to villainy started with this completely uncalled for scene.
What's the matter, teenager? Afraid we'll put your bras to better use?
But she's the apprentice of Father and spends most of season 2 in the main overarching plot, where it's revealed her plan was to detach the moon base and send it crashing to the sun. I gotta love how many cartoons treat the sun as just the next thing from the moon. But yeah, she literally was about to kill hundreds of children by incinerating them, Jesus Christ. But actually Chad did it first and convinced her not to do it since it didn't work out for him, just as she was about to. But again, this was retcon that he only did to stop Kree from doing it herself. She apparently also went around to hospitalize K&D members and then scrambled their brains when incapacitated, which just looks like literally drilling into their head. Goddamn, that must violate the Geneva Convention. Plus, in the episode Maurice, which gave us the greatest scene in the show.
Dude, and crank up those tunes.
I hate kids! Kids are brats! Kids are stupid! I hate kids! They ask dumb questions! Stupid kids! I hate kids a lot!
How you're trying to infect kids with chickenpox, which is depicted as screeching chicken heads embedded in your face, and my god, this is the most disturbing thing on the show. Seriously, I'm just imagining those things squirming and screeching in my face like they're digging into it, especially from afar when it looks like literal maggots wriggling into your pores. I think this is worse than the pink eye stuff, honestly. I seriously can't look at this. Also, the fact that chickenpox is potentially fatal, trying to infect kids with it is actually murderous. I can't imagine how awkward it must be to have these two in the same house. But then again, their dad is Bill Cosby, so I guess that's one person worse to live with.
Help yourselves to some delicious cookies. They got the chips and the nuts and the sugar and all that good stuff.
So among all the things she's done, she gets high A tier. Lastly, the delightful children from down the lane. The most occurring antagonist in the show, representing children trying to stifle childhood, trying to delightfulize all children to be the perfect, well-behaved, and soulless puppets for adults. They actively try to destroy the K&D as they are the main opposition for a childhoodless future and force delightfulization on others. But they are extremely cruel and selfish, even beyond their main goal, from stealing other kids' homework to wanting to be the only ones to eat their birthday cake, which I guess is reasonable, except for literally holding the other kids hostage just to watch them eat it. Though, weirdly they go to the same school as the K&D, which as I said must be really awkward. They also try to destroy the fountain of youth so that everyone is forced to grow up. The motivation almost as stupid as the Spanish from Pirates 4. They also will literally backstab anyone, even if it sacrifices the world like in Operation Zero, and even after Father told them not to. Probably the most outwardly cruel being that they not only were responsible for making number 1 bald, but also aced him to an adult purely out of hatred. For causing so much trouble for the K&D and being their primary villain, they get to the top of A tier. Now for the absolute worst. The Sinister supervillains. The ones that are evil to the core and use all their power to torment others and the world, and are genuine threats through and through. They're not just a threat to the K&D, but to the entire world pretty much. To start rank S, Madam Margaret. This episode kinda makes me insanely uncomfortable. Margaret has only one goal, to get rid of every boy on the planet by making a device that forces them to turn into girls. Basically just turning them into girly girl stereotypes. And I'm gonna be honest, in the days of gender fluidity and awareness, this episode is aged super poorly and is pretty awkward to watch. I mean, I always find boys versus girl episodes to usually be pretty bad, stereotypical, and extremely heavy-handed. But an episode about a girl trying to change everyone's gender has become a lot more relevant now, The stereotypes on both sides don't help either, especially the girls being hugely prissy and overly emotional. But at least the fact that number 5 also got affected implies that it doesn't just feminize, but practically rewrites a person of Margaret's idea of a perfect girl. But still, I don't like watching it.
I love ponies.
It's Sector 8!
Or Team Mrs. Nesbit? I'm a pixie. I've got a basket with flowers.
The episode takes a huge shift as number 4 gets taken to the all-girls boarding school she runs and teams up with her future self to ensure a male-free future as he fails to warn the others in time, until the flash forward to 75 years in the future, where she basically has won, as an elderly number 4 leads the last resistance of boys left on the planet. Jesus Christ. Though it's weird there's so many kids still around 75 years later, as boys are practically extinct, so who the hell is reproducing? I'll get to that later, but it's genuinely messed up and intense.
A dreamer. Now go on home. Too late for your help. Too late to dream.
They get help from presumably number 3's granddaughter. I almost want to believe it's her and 4's kid, but it doesn't seem to be, as she fights for the equality the world once had before Margaret.
Wanna join the boys next door?
No! Not the boys next door. The kids next door.
Making their last stand and allowing old number 4 to travel back in time with Sally's help, using Margaret's time machine to warn the candy before Margaret could stop them and undo the future and give Hippie Hop his only actual win. Not only is her plan a massive atrocity, violating people's right to their own identity and forcefully, physically, and mentally changing them, but also that unless she figures out how girls can asexually reproduce, she is literally killing off humanity by removing the possibility of sexual reproduction. Like she is actually killing all humans on Earth with her plan, and she doesn't seem to care. But I also know that there are some people who genuinely have the same mindset, which disturbs me. But for pretty much dooming the entire human race, they get S tier. Next, Father, the most iconic villain of the show, and for good reason. His reveal was the big twist at the end of the first season, as the person the delightful children answer to, and responsible for the most reoccurring heinous plots on the show. Father is pretty much the most powerful villain on his own, aside from one other guy, with so many superpowers, but primarily their pyrokinesis, stemming from their immense anger, and they stand out because they're really not afraid to use it. This dude really does want to kill these kids with their bare hands and take plenty of opportunities to do so. Like, he has a presence that no other villain in the show has, representing legitimate fear and trauma from a furious parents plenty of kids can relate to. I really gotta give it to Maurice LaMarche's performance. He sold it so much, but also does his goofy side as well.
I said, enough! You're doing. No one except my delightful children is allowed to eat this cake! What? No one invites me? I may be evil, but that doesn't mean I don't like to party down. 19th century kid. You want to watch a cartoon on the television?
He has the biggest plans to destroy the kids next door, notably by making a laser engulfing the planet, turning them into their personas, taking over the candy as supreme leader, and turning all treehouses to make broccoli to force feed it to every kid, which is literally deadly in this world, and recommissioning Grandfather to destroy the organization. Also including his caked appearances, with Caked 5 having him attempt to destroy all the ice cream on Earth just so that only his kids can have it, to probably the worst one of all, actively trying to cook over 600 children into his cake for his kids. Yes, this man tried to cook over 600 children alive and eat them. Why is there so much kid cannibalism in this show? Speaking of his kids, they're not even his kids, and doesn't really just lifelize other children to effectively be his. That is so wrong. And he doesn't even care once they got turned into literal sheeple. Tommy's right.
Man, you really are evil.
Yes, I know.
There is a reason why Father is the most iconic and feared villain of the show. No one comes close to this guy. Seriously, no doubt he was gonna win Villain of the Year. No one else came close. But there is one bigger. The highest one on the S tier, Grandfather. No contest. The biggest threat in the entire show. I don't want to get too into Operation Zero, as I think it might be cool to make a video on. Tell me if you're interested. The timeline is kind of confusing, but Grandfather basically already took over the world, enslaving kids in tapioca factories to make pudding for him. Maybe this is what Happy Tapioca was.
Tapioca!
before being mind-wiped by number 0 until Father recommissioned him, regaining his memories and powers, and then immediately uses his power to turn all the other villains into senior citizen zombie slaves, able to turn anyone they touch and use them as his personal army, and then pretty quickly takes over the world, destroy the Candy treehouses and assimilates them, and turn the world back to the Victorian era. He pretty much won immediately with very little effort. He's also an abusive parent to Father and potentially caused his descent into villainy because of it. What makes it even worse is that as well as his incredible powers and reality warping, the dude is practically indestructible, with nothing shown to even harm him physically at all. I'm not kidding. He might be one of the most powerful characters in CN history. The only character I can think of more powerful is Black Cat, and he's literally the most powerful. Also, fun fact, the Candy orientation video in Villainous was actually overseen by Warburton himself to ensure it fit the show. Neat. He is by far the biggest threat in the show, and the one that's gotten the closest to winning, hell, he pretty much already did, and gets to the top of S tier, with good reason. But you might have noticed I missed someone. That being Chester. This man is the most psychotic, morally bankrupt, horrific monster in this show. First appearance was bad enough, posing as a camp counselor, mind controlling the campers to make stuff for him to sell, and even another where he projects a perfect utopia in number 1's mind while capturing him. But Operation Fast Food is the most messed up episode of the show, where number 3 is told to get a kid's meal in his fast food place, only to reveal the kids' meals are made of kids. He literally abducts kids who go in his restaurants and make him his food. This is literally the plot of a horror movie. Legit, he made this entire evil scheme to sell children to be eaten by sharks for doubloons. Oh my god, this is horrific. This is monstrous. How did this episode get made? He's not even doing this out of anger or spite against the KND. Every other villain at least has a hatred of bratty children to do this. This man is killing children for money. This man made an entire business to kill children. What the f? And we have absolutely no idea how many kids this man has served up to be killed. I mean, for all we know, number 3 was the first customer, but he seems to have some reputation, and he somehow knows this system works. For all we know, he's killed dozens, if not hundreds of kids by now. This man is literally a child murderer. I can't believe no one had a problem with this. They weren't even able to save number 3 from the shark. She just barely escaped being put in the first place, so any other kid didn't stand a chance. He also did a World's Most Dangerous Game parody where he tried to turn number 1 into a moose to grind up his antlers to make into popsicles, like with every other kid going to get a shot, though that was real to just be a story he made up. But the ending implies it's gonna happen for real, and I do not put it past this guy for a second to keep trying to sell food products made from children. I can't believe that this guy looks like Gustavo from Pizza Tower is this utterly twisted and horrific. And yeah, he is the most messed up and evil character in this entire show among all the villains. You get a tier of your own. You get what the f is wrong with you all to yourself. And so, that's it for the tier list. And I gotta say, all these villains make you really wonder. Are there no normal villains in this world? Are they all just anti-kid? Are there no adult on adult super criminals? No one uses their powers to like rob banks just to be asses to children? Huh. But also how much of an absolute hell it must be to live in this world where supervillains existed to try and make your life miserable as a child and end your life just barely as it begun. I'm not kidding. The K&D world is up there as one of the worst worlds to grow up in. Could be considered a dystopian world where children are fighting for survival. But then again, it's kind of the theme of the show, as all these villains exaggerate an aspect of childhood and the issues that arise from it. Helps the idea and theory that it's all really just a child's imagination of fighting back against the real problems in their lives. But I think the main issue of the show is the most poignant, the fear of growing up. It's the most interesting and nuanced part of the series, exemplifying the wonder of childhood and fear of losing it as the biggest villains want to take it away. But even if they don't, time itself will do it eventually. So many examples of the characters losing who they once were, their ideals, their personas, relationships, because of time.
I give up. As a teen, the greatest kid next door I ever knew is a teen. And I'll be a teen soon enough. Can't keep fighting it. I give up.
It's the one villain they can't defeat. It gets so much more relatable now. as I'm sure most people are adults watching who grew up on this show, looking back at this aspect with new eyes and now becoming a part of the other side that seemed so far away at the time. It's just a fascinating new perspective.
It's not your age that's changed, Mr. Uno. It's you.
When you're an adult, you'll learn it's every man for himself, and you'll learn the hard way.
But yeah, adulthood is something that we can't avoid, and this list in this show has motivated me to do something about it. As an adult, I need to change myself and embrace it. No, what? I'm not gonna become more responsible or mature. I'm just gonna make some children's lives miserable. If this is what it means to be an adult, I'm obligated to. I'm gonna go build a rocket to blow up a school bus. See you guys later.
The children? I don't care about the children. I just care about their parents' money. Survival of the fittest, SpongeBob. Survival of the fittest.
And crank up those tunes.